Time now for our focus report, which takes us to Spain ahead of Catalonia's banned independence referendum. In Barcelona, young people aged between 18 and 25 are the ones spearheading the pro-independence message. Poster children of what's being dubbed the Smile Revolution, organising parties, concerts and flash mob demonstrations. Our correspondents Sarah Morris and Milena Wett went to meet them.
The campus of Barcelona's autonomous university, taken over by hundreds of pro-independence activists. Nuria's 22 and one of the organisers of today's events.
All the young people are going to come out over the next few days to defend democracy and the referendum, always in a peaceful and festive way. What we want to do is to launch an appeal to young people so they aren't frightened, so they understand that we are the future of this country.
When these young people say country, they don't mean Spain, but Catalonia. The day's organisers include student unionists and the University Club, which performs one of the region's most spectacular traditions, castells.
I think we're different. We've got our own identity, and that gives us the right to decide freely what we want to become. People have been doing these towers for the last 200 years. It's cultural, but it's also a way of showing we're different from the rest of Spain.
Some students are already dreaming of a fairer country.
We're not just demanding a change to the flag, we're asking for a change to society, an organisational change. We want a society where we would vote for new laws on housing, education and health.
Between bands, politicians step onto the stage, like this deputy for the CUP, a left-wing separatist party.
We'll use civil disobedience peacefully and without violence, because that makes everyone responsible, that makes this human.
The students cheer this message. They're sold on the idea of a peaceful revolution. The next morning, the central square of the university is back to normal, but the most active demonstrators are still campaigning. We meet up with Nuria again. She's headed for Barcelona city centre. The idea to be as visible as possible to keep up the pressure on Madrid.
We need to give it everything we've got when we arrive in University Square. Let's show them the strength of the autonomous University of Barcelona.
Some passers-by cheer them, and they get support from the older generation.
I also went there 50 years ago.
For these students, the battle for the yes happens on the streets, but also on social networks. Twitter, Facebook, they're all places to try to convince the undecided. One poll showed 76% of young people back the unilateral referendum. Even those against independence want to vote.
I'd like everyone to be able to vote, those for independence and those who want to vote no.
Today, the students have decided to stage a sit-in at the university's buildings in the city centre. Normally, they're used as electoral colleges for elections, but the university chairman has refused to open them up for the referendum. The decision has angered some of the lecturers who back their students' political demands.
It's true that over the last few years, the number of young people taking part in politics has shot up. It makes me happy to see them organising themselves to defend their ideas.
Systematically on the front line at protests, young Catalans are the driving force of the independence movement. The Catalan government's latest opinion poll suggests the yes will be by far the winner among those aged 18 to 34.
Well, for more on this, let's cross to our guest. Andrew Dowling is a senior lecturer in Hispanic Studies at Cardiff University. Hello, thank you very much for being with us on France 24. Why are young people favourable to an independent Catalonia?
Well, I think one thing that happens with young people is they like to believe in a political project for the future. And if you want, Catalan independence sells a fantastic story that powerful change is possible, that real change is possible. And so it's an idea that young people can immediately identify with, that meaningful change can actually happen and it's within their grasp. So I think that's part of the appeal for the young.
But what kind of a society do they imagine this independent Catalonia would be?
Well, that's something that's to be debated in a sense, because you've got a whole range of political persuasions involved in the independence movement. As your report noted, you've got people on the extreme left, you've got kind of moderates and liberals, and even the spectrum spans as far as, say, Christian Democrats. So I think the advantage of something like independence is it allows people to project onto the future their political hopes. So it doesn't matter who you are, you can say, this is the type of Catalonia we're going to have in 5 years' time. And because nobody really knows what an independent Catalonia will look like, that allows people to do that kind of projection into the future.
Do Catalan authorities have any idea of what it could look like?
Well, again, different political persuasions offer different explanations. I mean, there's certainly been something quite strong in the sense that many Catalans are convinced, around 60% are convinced, that they personally will be much better off financially, that a Catalonia will be a richer society, will be a better society, and there will be kind of, peace and harmony for all. So it's a kind of semi-utopian vision. It's a kind of very positive story that this amazing process, this amazing society is within our grasp, and we can make all the changes we want once we're no longer ruled from Madrid.
And looking at this smile revolution, are there more radical, perhaps violent elements among the youth?
No. I think so far we've seen a very peaceful movement, a movement based on, at most, mild actions of civil disobedience. I mean, I think part of the problem, however, will be that there's never been in human history, as far as I'm aware, anything that you can call a smile revolution. So in the sense in which it's portrayed as a smile revolution, it's not going to be successful. I don't think we're suddenly on the cusp of seeing an independent Catalonia. So what we're much more likely to see in the next few weeks and months is a lot of frustration from those who are today optimistic about the future, are much more likely to feel kind of pessimistic or disenchanted or even angry. And then we don't really know what will happen, how that will manifest itself politically in the weeks and months to come.
Sort of a post-referendum hangover?
I think so. I mean, I think, nobody really knows what's going to happen on Sunday. But I think my personal prediction, if you want, will be that both sides will be able to claim some kind of victory. There won't be a real referendum. The Spanish government will say we stopped a real referendum, whereas there'll probably be a very strong sense of popular mobilization throughout Catalonia, and the independent forces will be able to say, look, we've shown the world that we can mobilize, that we believe in democracy. So probably we'll some kind of draw, but it certainly won't be a scenario where the Catalan Parliament will be able to proclaim independence with 2 days. I think that's wishful thinking.
Now, polls show that only about half of the electorate is actually pro-independence. Might Madrid's clampdown swing more people towards a pro-independence line?
That's one of the things we don't quite know. I mean, I think a lot of people in Catalonia have been quite angered, whether it's pro or anti-independence supporters, of the way the Spanish authorities have responded. Most people feel, and this has been the perception internationally as well, that the Spanish authorities have been very heavy-handed and have alienated many. So we don't really know, it's an element that we don't quite know how it's going to express itself on Sunday, whether those who aren't actually in favour of independence will participate in, if you want, the big social mobilisations that we can anticipate. And essentially, we won't really know what happens until Sunday comes along and we see how people are behaving.
That's right, because you don't have to be in the yes camp to actually want to simply vote. Has it been a rather tense time for those who don't want independence?
I don't think so, because in only about 1/5 of the Catalan population, a maximum 1/5, think that Catalan independence is imminent. So therefore, 80% of Catalans don't think we're suddenly about to see a new Catalan state. And part of the problem, if you want, for the yes side is they've never really been able to convince opponents of independence that the referendum is also the referendum of those opposed to independence. So basically what will happen is those people who will vote on Sunday will overwhelmingly be supporters of independence. A yes vote is absolutely guaranteed because the yes voters are the most committed to participating. Those against independence are much more likely to either not show or to boycott the referendum because they just don't believe in a referendum as the political solution, or more accurately, they don't believe in this particular referendum at this particular time.
So you think it could change in time?
I think in the medium term, Spain has an enormous political problem, or in the short and medium term, it's got an enormous political problem. It's got, depending on your analysis, something approaching almost half the population who are deeply and profoundly alienated from Spain. And whatever happens in the next, say, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever is the final outcome, Spain has to address that serious alienation that many Catalans feel, including on people who are opposed to the conservative government in Madrid, but aren't necessarily in the independence camp. Spain has a big problem with the region of Catalonia.
Andrew Dowling, thank you very much for having spoken to us. Thank you.
You're welcome.